Hello, everybody, and welcome um, to the first episode of our podcast. I'm Sean,
And I'm Mariana.
and this is an idea that we've wanted to do for a long time. Um, Mariana, if you want to talk a bit
Yeah,
about that.
sorry, I forgot. But yeah, I feel like we've been wanting to do this for a long time. We've always talked about starting a podcast,
Mhm.
and we've been friends for years. And so I feel like this would be a good time because I feel like it's a really important period in life where we can like look back on it as we're starting this new phase, but then also we can talk about all that we have learned about ourselves and about the world in the last like years that we've been here. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And for some context, uh, my name's Sean again. I was born in Canada, grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Um, Went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergrad, and I just recently graduated in May with a degree in neuroscience and minors in chemistry and business. And then looking forward, in a month, I'm going to be starting my full-time job as an associate consultant at Bain down in Atlanta. But what about you?
Yeah, so my name is Mariana once again. And I was actually born in Mexico. I was born in Monterrey, which is like 3 hours south of the border. But my whole family's from San Luis Potosí, so I go back pretty often. But I moved to the United States in 2010 when I was 7 years old, and then I've grown up most of my life in Arkansas, in a pretty small town, but it's called Bentonville. It's growing really fast, so maybe you've heard of it. But
Walmart HQ.
exactly, exactly. And so I grew up there, and then I went to college in North Carolina at UNC Chapel Hill, which is where I met Sean. And after those 4 years, I studied psychology and human development and family science. And this fall, in like a week actually from now, I'll be starting a PhD in psychology and education. So it's a combined program, which is really cool. So I'll be dual enrolled. But yeah, I moved to Ann Arbor like a week ago. So I guess this is where I'll be for the next 5 years.
Wow. Wow. And so essentially, going back to why we started this even, this is a big transition in both of our lives.
Yeah.
Obviously you just moved and you're going to be starting even sooner than I am, but I was even touring apartments last actually 2, 3 days ago, down in Atlanta. And so yeah, I think this is a cool opportunity to be able to, reflect on everything we learned in university and also what we hope for and what we're thinking about moving forward. So to kick it off, before we dive into our episode, I'd love to hear a bit about how your week's been going and how the weekend was for you.
Yes. So like I said, I moved like a week ago. So I'm still kind of exploring the area a little bit. But I like what I've seen. I think in the beginning I was like really struggling because it was just like it reminded me so much of Arkansas, honestly. Like it's a lot older. It's like kind of like a mix of Durham and Arkansas and or by Arkansas I mean Bentonville. So it's kind of a mix of the two. Um which I was like, I kind of wanted a bit more of a change in like actual scenery, but I think I've grown to like appreciate that. Um, Even in this last week, like finding a little more stability and like not having to worry about like how does public transit work or anything, because it's like I can drive my
Mm,
car anywhere. I also got a car, which is super exciting. So that's like a big switch up as well,
jeez.
because I didn't have one all of undergrad, as you know. I had to like get rides from people to
Mm.
go anywhere. So yeah, that's been really nice. Getting back into driving has been really silly. I like keep making dumb mistakes. So but like nothing crazy, nothing crazy. But just like I left my car light on, so I had to jumpstart my car, and my roommate helped me with that. And so it's a whole ordeal. But I this weekend went to Lake Michigan actually. So
Yeah.
roommate here, which I had met her before this, thankfully in person, like one time. And then we both ended up committing to Michigan, and so we were like, okay, like let's be roommates because we already know we have good vibes from each other. And she already knew a couple people that were in the Masters of Higher Education program at Michigan, and they invited us to go to a weekend with them, and so I drove us up to Lake Michigan, and we spent the weekend there, made really good food, listened to good music. It was really interesting. It was very different than what I was expecting, or it surprised me, I guess, because I had heard that it was like a beach because like you can't see the other side, but it was crazy
Hmm.
actually being there, like how similar to a beach it was. Like it was literally just like it was so sandy, and the sand was honestly softer than what it is at most beaches, I feel like. And you
Hmm.
like can't see the other end. But the one thing that was so weird was like the waves obviously are not as big as like an ocean. And so we would like step in and you could go like so far into the lake and the water would only be reaching like right above your knees. And so it was like
Hmm.
it was so weird because it was like if you actually wanted to go deeper, you had to like really, really go all the way into the lake. But it was cool. There were people jet skiing, which reminded me of you.
Oh God.
And people on like kayaks and stuff. I don't know, it's very naturey out here, so I
Yeah.
guess I'm starting to learn to grow into that. But it's been cool to find community here though. I think like
Hmm.
I already feel like I have kind of people that I can call if I need anything. We actually moved apartment units as well,
Oh.
and so we were able to call some of the people we met last week and they like came to help us and then we all had pizza and my apartment floor, which I don't know if this will be visual, but there's literally not a couch. No, there's literally nothing. It's just like boxes in my carpet. So, anyways, it was very chill.
Hmm.
I think the highlight has definitely been the people, and how like nice and welcoming they've been to us. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that is really, really crazy. And I'm surprised. So even just last week, I was up near Toronto in Oakville, staying with some of my family there.
Hmm.
And Oakville is right on Lake Ontario. And so I saw the lake and I totally get it. It seemed kind of like an ocean where you can't see the other side. There's waves and everything. It was really cool. Obviously, where we're from in both Charlotte and Bentonville, I assume you don't have like huge lakes like that.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
we have a lake, but it's not that like that was crazy.
yeah. But the one thing is there, they everyone was like very adamant that you don't go swimming. Like it was like very like ew, you went in the lake, you like
Yeah.
hopefully were in a kayak or above water. So
Yeah, honestly it was a little gross, but like it was fine, but it's obviously not like a pretty clear ocean. So,
yeah, you were just in the Detroit shipping lanes. That's fine.
yeah, that's
That's
okay.
completely fine.
It was like slimy low key. It was kind of
Oh God.
no, it
Oh
was
no.
fun. It was fun. I showered. We're good.
Okay. No lasting damage.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I mean that sounds really fun. I didn't get up to anything too fun this past week and weekend. It was mainly logistical. On Tuesday, I flew back from Canada. Had a like 5 hour layover in LaGuardia. It was okay. It was okay. It wasn't too bad. Just I've been watching The Wire recently, and I've like binged
Oh,
like the whole first season,
oh
and a
my
lot
God.
of that was in LaGuardia.
Oh my God.
And then got back, and then toured apartments in Atlanta later that week. And now, over the weekend, I was just kind of doing chores, cleaning up around the house. I was trimming the hedges yesterday out there doing yard
Okay.
work. That, it was really hot,
I was just about to
but
say, I bet it's been crazy. It's a lot hotter up here than I thought it would be. Like I
I
thought
know.
coming more
Yeah.
to like the north, I was like, oh, surely it's gonna be like a nice like 75, like
Nah.
80 maybe like at the highest, and it's like so fucking hot here still.
It's the
So
biggest lie I've ever been
yeah.
sold was going
Yeah.
to Canada and thinking like, oh, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be
No,
better.
same.
No, it was just as hot. It was
Yeah.
horrible.
So hot. At least it's though, I will say it's like substantially less humid than North Carolina though. Like
Yeah,
nothing will ever
that's
compare
true.
to the humidity of North Carolina heat. So I do
Yeah.
appreciate that about here. Like you still get a nice breeze. When you're in the shade, like and the breeze hits, it's like
Yeah.
it's nice. But the sun is still like crazy. So
Yeah. I guess just enjoy the warmth.
I
I
know.
think
I'm not
even you were
complaining
saying, yeah.
because every time I think about complaining about the heat, I think about how awful everyone makes the winter sound. And so I'm
Dude,
like, yeah, let me not even I'm like,
global
I'm
warming.
gonna shut my mouth because I'm gonna
Global
hate.
warming will do you a favor for the next
Oh
5 years.
God.
Um, but yeah, very cool. So for this episode, um, given that you just moved and, I just got back and, have been thinking about moving and planning all of that, we thought it would be good to talk about, some of the changes in our lives and also reflect a bit on university and just everything we've learned kind of so far in terms of life lessons, and stuff like that. So I jotted down a few things, that I can go ahead and read off. But yeah, so the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and I am interested to get your take on this as well, because I don't know if I've explicitly talked to you about this before, but have you ever heard the phrase, "A jack of all trades is a master of none"? Have you heard that
Yes.
before? Yeah. Have you heard the second part to it ever?
I actually have. It was in a podcast I listened to
Okay.
like a couple weeks ago. But it's like basically I think I'm under the impression that it's not used the way that it should be because the other part changes like the entire
Yeah.
meaning
Yeah.
of how people use
No, exactly. It's a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And so basically the whole idea, at least that I take away from it, is that it's better to have experience in multiple different things and multiple different even like fields, or get to touch so many different aspects of stuff rather than very tunnel visioned on one specific thing. And so when I was trying to think of big reflections I took away from university, that was definitely a big one for me, was the idea of when I went into it, I feel like there was such a pressure to choose one thing, like choose your lane, whatever you want to do, and just like stick with that and not really like veer out. Especially I came in pre-med, as did
me as
you.
well, actually.
And I mean, both of us can vouch like for that, there's so much focus on just like stay in that, do the courses, do the extracurriculars, do like everything you need to do that relates to that. And I feel like it can be hard in university to, veer out and like try new things, try to like connect separate things. Um, and so that was a big thing I learned along the way. But obviously you also kind of like studied separate things, and I feel like you've had such a wide range of extracurriculars. So I'm
Yeah.
curious what you also think about that.
No, I think I like the idea that like being knowledgeable on multiple things and being like a well-rounded person is better. But I think it's interesting how like our entire lives we've been taught the opposite of, and especially in not to take it to a place of education, but yeah, like the way that the education systems are formed is like you
Mhm.
have to be good at the one thing and you have to specialize. And we can connect this to capitalism if we want to get, but like I mean I think it is just kind of like it's like you get sharpened up like all your life basically to be like this one thing. And so
Mhm.
I think like literally everything like surrounding us is forcing us to do that. So I think it's really interesting when people kind of don't do that. And that's why also when I was applying to colleges, I really wanted something or like a place that had like a core curriculum, so to say, like it forced you to
Mhm.
take classes in other disciplines. And I know that's something that I feel like a lot of people hated. Like even at UNC, I feel like I remember people freshman year complaining about, oh, I have to take this philosophy class I really don't want to take, or I have to take
Yeah.
this English class and this is so stupid. And I always thought it was really cool. Like I really appreciated that like we had the freedom to like, yeah, it's like you have to take like an English class or something, or like a language class, but you get the freedom to pick like what that looks like for you. Um,
Mhm.
and that's something I always really loved. And I love gen eds. I think it's so important for everyone to get like a taste of everything, and figure out, be more rounded as like a world citizen, but then also be able to find out more about yourself and what you're interested in. And yeah, I just think that's super cool. It sucks that you have to pick though. I agree, but I mean, yeah, I'm on your side, I think, on this one.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be able to be more well-rounded. And I think the for me what it was just like what allows me to have the most freedom whenever it comes to like picking.
Mm.
It's like you're gonna have to pick at the end of the day regardless, right? So it's like what gives me the most flexibility to take classes that I enjoy, but then also be able to have the freedom of picking those classes within that discipline still. And I think, like you said, for me,
Mhm.
pre-med, well, it just didn't work out because I hated the classes. But I think like beyond that, I think I also hated how like rigid it is. And I'm not saying it's impossible, obviously, but
Mhm.
I just think like I just hated that it was like you have to take these STEM courses and it has to be these courses. Like it can't just be like
Yeah.
take science. It's like you have to take Chem 1, Chem 102. Like you have to
Yeah.
be organic too. Like it was just so rigid to me. And I think that's something that I found with psychology and the School of Education was that they allowed me to have a lot more freedom in terms of like you still get kind of like a big picture type thing whenever you take those classes, but you can kind of pick like based on what you actually like to do, like
Yeah.
what type of psychology you want to kind of like focus on with your electives. So, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think you brought up such a good point that I actually even forgot about was like gen eds and like making people take gen eds was I think one of the best things
No,
about
yeah.
UNC. And that is not like across the board. Like I had friends who I saw in Canada who like they don't really take gen eds.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I look back at university and I think of like what were the like coolest classes or the most memorable classes I had?
Exactly.
I think of jazz freshman year with my brother. I think of our intro to Latinx
Yes.
English class.
Hmm.
Um, some of them are like neuroscience, psychology related, like stuff
Yeah.
like that. But like Islam in Africa was a really cool one. I tell you, it was all these things that, if you like really stay in your like one lane and like the one thing you want to do, you would never discover.
No,
And I feel like the
exactly.
the whole point of university is you should be taking all these things, trying to touch as many different fields as
Right.
possible so you can
Yeah.
see if maybe there's something you're more interested in.
Yeah, exactly. I think like discovery is like so important when you come into college, and I just feel like being robbed of that would be like the worst thing ever. Like even and like I think
Yeah.
that push to like force you to go out and like explore other things because I'm thinking of like the way I even found out I wanted to study education and ended up switching my whole majors because I took a class freshman year called Schooling of Immigrant Children that I think I needed for a gen ed.
Mm.
Um and I took it and I like loved it so much. And then that made me take other education classes and then I added the ed minor and then I kept taking more and I was like, no, I want the major. And so then I added the major. And so and it's like I feel like you hear stories like that all the time
Mhm.
too of like people don't even realize that that's what they actually want to or that they're so much more passionate about something else because they don't even
Yeah.
have the opportunity or they don't give themselves the opportunity to explore other things. And that's how it is in Mexico too.
Mhm.
Like in Mexico when you go into college, it's like you go in with your career path already picked for you. Like there's no
Yeah.
like liberal arts education. It's kind of just like you go in and you want to be a doctor, like, okay, we'll start those classes like as soon as you're in, like you're doing clinicals, you're
Yeah.
there. It's really crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I think I like that, and I hate that people hate that because I'm like, dang, but I guess people don't aren't learners.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sometimes
we're just
that's
better
not their
than them,
preference.
so
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. But yeah, I think I don't know. Like, I think people just learn differently, but I
yeah.
do think that that is the best way to learn personally. But
I I agree. And yeah, in Canada, it's like at least some of the universities I saw, it's very similar. You apply like to the business program, the accounting program, like the pre-med program, and you're not taking anything outside of that. So it's like
mhm.
in high school, you're deciding what you're gonna do for the rest of your
Exactly. And like at
life.
17, 18 years old, like I literally can't even imagine like if I had been forced to stick out with pre-med, like it would have been fine, but like I just find so much more fulfillment and like passion in what I do now. Like I don't know how I do
Yeah.
that. And then also like seeing the connections between all these different disciplines that you take, like is also super
Yeah.
cool. And that's something that you also don't get if you don't get to explore other things. So whatever. Now I'm going on a tangent, but yeah.
No, no, I
Very good
completely
thought.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was like a similar thing. Even I found in like business, everyone was like, not everyone, but sometimes in interviews they would ask me like, why are you neuroscience and trying to do like consulting or business or anything like that. And you just like you don't realize, but so many of obviously the skills are applicable just across the board in a lot of these disciplines, but even
Hmm.
like psychology and everything, like you talk about business, psychology determines everything in
Yeah.
business. The whole idea of like, like markets and stuff, being
Yeah.
determined by sentiment is all like, how are
Mhm.
people feeling? And I saw there was this researcher at University of Toronto, um, and I can't remember her name right now, but she does research into business psychology, and she found that during time changes, the stock market typically goes down, and that's purely just because people are tired. They like lose an hour of sleep, so people make
Yeah.
worse decisions. And so there's like so much like random stuff that can be gleaned in anything just from like having like maybe a psych background or something like that. But yeah, if you have anything to add, feel free. But otherwise, I can move on to the next thing I had jotted
Oh yeah,
down.
I think you move on, but yeah, it's like super applicable. I think people forget, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, Great. So the next thing I had written down, this was something I only realized late into university. Probably when I was like really interviewing and trying to get jobs. But I wrote down, do not overestimate the competition. The barriers to entry are usually lower than you think. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Just gut reaction.
This gut reaction. Um, the barriers, don't overestimate the barriers to entry. What was the second part?
Don't overestimate the competition, and then
Oh, okay.
barriers to entry are lower than you think.
Oh, okay. I think like I agree. Is my first reaction. And I think that's something that I would have never though like or that it's an advice that I wish I would have had like going into college. Because I think
Mhm.
you don't know that until you like actually meet someone or speak to someone that has done the things that you want to do and you get to realize like what the step-by-step play looks like. Um and I think it's similar to like I guess like college access and things like that, but I think thinking about it career-wise though, I think it's very true. And I think it's something that's very gate kept too of like the secrecy that goes with like getting jobs in like or getting into grad school or getting like jobs like
Yeah.
promoting like what you do. Like I feel like it's very like gate kept what the process looks like. And like exactly what you need to do or say in like interviews or in statements like in my case. And I think the lack of knowledge on that and like it's just very inaccessible. And I think that inaccessibility really relates to what you just read out, which is that it makes people feel like it's an impossible path to take if you go
Mhm.
like it's like how do I even get there if I don't even know what the steps are? Um and so I think it's really easy to then overestimate and be like, oh, these people that are doing all these things are like must be doing something so insane and like something that I can't even like learn about, like even if I wanted to. But it's like then you realize all it takes is a conversation with someone and then it's like not as hard as you thought it was. And so I don't know. I think I
Yeah.
really like that because I feel like that's something I really wish I would have heard 5 years ago.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And the saddest part to me, I think, is that so many people like they count themselves out before, and me included, obviously, as a freshman and sophomore in university, you count yourself out of so many things.
Mhm.
And then you're too like intimidated to try and go
Yeah.
for certain opportunities. And it's just like it's so sad because I feel like there's so many cool opportunities out there and you never obviously know until you try.
Hmm.
Um, but even yeah, taking like consulting and everything, as an example, like I've had a million networking calls now where kids ask me for like advice, on like how I got into it. And specifically, I've had people reach out to me from California schools and like across the country asking about how do you do it from a science background because like something like that seems so like hard and so like unusual. Um, but it really comes down to just like realizing that just because people maybe have a certain title next to their name like business majors or something, it doesn't mean they have some inherent like advantage or knowledge over
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
So much of like what you do in university is what you can make of it in whatever field you're a part of.
Yeah.
And so that was always like something I've made a point of doing when talking to people is just um like reassuring them that it's not as scary as you think and the
Hmm.
process isn't as hard. People will be like, "Oh, I haven't been prepping for 4 months. Like, am I already out of it?" I'm like, "Dude, I took maybe 2 months."
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was also just something that always stood out to me, and it really became clear to me when I had to like mentor other people, like younger
Mhm.
people. And I know you've also done, I feel like a lot of mentorship stuff. So I'm curious, like what were some of the things that were different, from when you were a mentee versus like a mentor for kids?
Yeah, I think it was just, yeah, just complete, just like lack of knowledge to the point where it was like, I don't even know what to ask. Like,
Hmm.
I think is the hardest part when you're starting off is just like going to these panels or going to these like lectures or speaking with professors during office hours, whatever. And it's like, I don't even know where to start to ask questions. And I think part of that was also like me not being sure what I wanted to do in the future. But I think learning how to have those conversations and being open to them, I think that's something that I like tell whenever I'm like in panels or doing like mentorship talks like that too. Like, it's okay to go into a conversation without like a clear agenda, especially when it's like you're so young, you're just starting, like you don't even know what you want to do. And
Mhm.
I think the important thing to remember with those is like the person that's on the other side, because now that I'm also on the other side, like it's like I'm also trying to help you. Like it's not all on you to come to me and be like, "Oh, this is what I want, like XYZ." And I don't know, maybe goes back to
Yeah.
literally the point of the thing, but I was like, I was about to say maybe it's different in business. But I don't know. I feel like people are willing to help. Like if you go
Mhm.
there and like the professor that you're speaking to or the person or grad student, whoever that you're speaking to, is making it awkward for you, then like that's on them. And I feel like that's something that I have to remind them because it's like anytime you go into these conversations, it goes both ways. Like it's not all on you. And I think that makes those conversations a lot less scary. But I also think, and I wanted to say something because I think right now we're talking a lot about the process of it, and I think we're starting to switch a little to like when we're on the other side. And I think part of
Mhm.
that moment is like we can give all this advice, but I feel like truly, like when I think back on it and like I really understand what that quote means, it's when you've like had these moments where you're like, oh, I made it, or like, oh, like I don't know, it's like applying for a job, you get the job, and then it's like something that was so mystified when you were like applying for it, and you're here, and now it's just like, oh, really, like this is what I was like. It's like, oh, like this, and that
Yeah.
comes from a place of gratitude. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it's just a bit of a shock when you like get to the places that you're aspiring to be at, and then you realize
Mhm.
like it's not something that's like completely insane. Like it's not
Yeah.
something super secretive that no one else can do. It's like you get to these places and then now it becomes a point of like, I dreamed of being here 3 years ago, but now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, like, is this really the right? I'm like, am I even in the right place? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
it isn't like as like I don't know, crazy as I feel like I made it out to be 3 years ago. And now I'm here and it's like, oh, this is just my life. And it's like, oh, these are the
Mhm.
places that are made so inaccessible to like people like us. And I don't know, it's like what's the point of gatekeeping where we're at now? And I don't think that comes from a place of um like what we're doing isn't cool or isn't valuable, but I think it just comes to speak to like why is it so inaccessible? Like why is it that people don't talk more about like the job itself is not difficult. I think the hardest part is just getting there. And then once you're there,
Mhm.
you're kind of like, oh shit, like I feel like I made it out to be something way, way bigger and way more complicated than it ever was or had to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And I remember when we talked about this, um, back, especially when you were going through the process of interviewing and applying for grad schools. But there's like a really interesting idea that I feel like I realized once I got to my company that I'm going to be working for when I interned for them and everything. It was like obviously it's so stressful in the beginning. Like going through the process and like trying to get there is super stressful. And you like are really working hard. It's long hours. But there's something about when you actually make it and you get there that at least for me, and I feel like maybe this is kind of similar for you too, where you're like, wow, I kind of miss like the like uncertainty of
Hmm.
before of not knowing where my life was going to take me.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to look back now that we're starting these like post grad plans and just see like wow, there was so much like uncertainty back then and when we were going through it that it's crazy to see now we're here and it's not as you said like it's not an ungrateful thing. Obviously so lucky to be here and so fortunate to be here. But it's just such a different feeling when you get to the top of that hill and realize, there's more work to be done. You can't like if you try just staying in that level, you're just gonna get bored and you're gonna get kind of like unsatisfied. But I don't know. That was basically especially how I felt after getting my position and just thinking, okay, now I can kick back and relax. Like I feel like I always have to like push myself to try and like um maybe do something different or constantly like explore. Um
Hmm.
but yeah.
Yeah. I know. I think it's hard to be in these like moments of uncertainty because it's like you do get to look back on it, but then you also like have so much I don't know, like it kind of takes away the like what comes next. But I think you just have to remind yourself, like, I feel like even in undergrad, like, we had technically the 4 years locked in, but still so much happened in those 4 years that is like, you never know. But to finish or to
Mhm.
tie this with a quote that I thought of whenever we were talking. I had to look up because I don't remember who said it, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pronounce their name. But it's life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Um, and it's
Mm.
by philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. So shout out them.
Wow.
But I think that's so real. And that's something I've been thinking. I think that's something I've been thinking a lot about being here now is like, um, we had to do these like last week I had a fellowship orientation like literally every day of the week, and one of the days was autobiographical, so each person got to go up and give like a presentation in any way they wanted. Most of us did like collages or like slides about just our lives and like what got us to the point that we're at now. And I thought about this quote so much the entire day that day because it was like we sat through like hours of people just talking to us about their lives, and it's just so crazy that like to the point that we're at right now we can like talk about our lives in a way where you can like really clearly, and this is just what I was thinking when I was watching other people present too, was like it's so crazy that we can all come here and we can all see that there's always been a thread. Oh, I don't know what just happened. There's like always been a thread in something that's connected our lives to get us to the point that we are now. And I just think it's so
Mhm.
mind-boggling because it's like when you look back to even when you were like in middle school or high school, you would never think you have no clue where you would be when
Yeah.
you're like 22 or 23 years old. Like you literally have no clue. But it's like every single step that you've done has taken us to like where we are now. And the fact that you can look back on your life and see a thread and be able to string it together and like a PowerPoint or like be able to verbally like tell your story and see exactly how every single milestone in your life connects and has gotten you to where you are now. I think I don't know, that's something I thought about all day and I was like this is so fucking crazy that we can all go up there and share our story
Yeah.
and dictate exactly what points led us to where we are. But when you look back and like if you were to place yourself in that moment in those points that you're reflecting on, you would have had no clue where that would have given like where that would have gotten you. Like people talked
Mhm.
about like growing up in rural areas, growing up in a farm, and like reading science books and things. And it's like in that moment, like you're just a kid reading a science book, or like in that moment, you're just a kid that didn't even pick to live in a farm, but you just live in a farm. But it's like
Mhm.
now, once you've already lived that part of your life, you can look at it backwards and you can see how it's all led you to where you are now. And I think that's really motivating when you think about the next couple years of our lives, because it's like in the moment we have no clue, but I'm confident that like in 10 years you'll be able to look back and that'll just be like another slide to the PowerPoint. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
But
I
yeah, it's just so crazy
really
to
like
me
that.
that like it all connects and we just don't know how until you've already lived it, which is what makes it really hard and like difficult. But I think it's really cool that we can do that already. Like that's
I
all.
I think I heard that similar idea, if not that exact same quote, like in the past few days, also listening to a podcast.
No way.
Um, and that I think they were basically saying like that's the like tragedy of it. Is that when you're in it, you don't know like how it all connects and how things make sense, but when you look back, it all
Like, it all
obviously,
makes
as
sense.
you said, makes sense. But yeah, I think that it can be a really comforting thought. Even uh like as you were saying that, I'm thinking, okay, like, my job for the next 3 years, like I don't know what like the future holds and everything. But it's crazy to think, when you talk to someone who's, and this isn't even that old, but like 50 or 40, 50, 60, so many of them will be like, oh yeah, I did this for like 2, 3 years back in like my 20s. And to them, it's just such a like it's not crazy. Nothing feels super crazy when you say it like that. It feels so, okay, yeah, you just did that. And in the moment, it can feel very overwhelming and kind
Yeah.
of important. But yeah, to think of it like, your end destination is the same no matter what, and this is really just the path that you're on to get there. It does make it feel like, no matter what situation you're kind of ending up in, um, it's helping you along that
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's harder, especially when you're the younger that we are, because obviously, as like 22-year-olds, it's like we don't have the life experience of someone that might be like 60 that's able to look back
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, this is just like 3 years, or like this is just 5 years. I think like to us, like 5 years, that's like a fourth of our lives almost.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it just feels like a lot crazier from a younger standpoint than from a I don't know, from when we were grown. So that's also I think
Yeah.
motivating because it's like, okay, obviously, I mean, hopefully I'm gonna be like 60 at some point in my life and or like 70.
Hopefully.
If I make it there, but no, I'll make it hopefully. But but it's like, I don't know, I just think it's cool to think about like what will my like little autobiographical presentation look like in like 30 years. And then it's like this will
Mhm.
literally just be like a what do people say? A blip? A blimp of time?
Yeah.
What the hell? What's the
A,
word?
a blip? A
A
blip, I
blip
think.
of time. That sounds so wrong. I don't know,
Yeah.
but whatever. It'll just be like a snap of a finger, you know? Like it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I went to grad school. Like I feel like already I'm like, oh yeah, like in undergrad I did this. And it's like I'm already summarizing
Yeah.
my whole life into like just a little snippet when I introduce
Yeah.
myself. And it's like even now it's like I'm like people ask me where I'm from and I say Arkansas and it's like, damn, like North Carolina, I lived there for 4 years and
Yeah.
it's harder to bring North Carolina into the conversation, even though it was so much of my life the past.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think that that does bring up an interesting point about how like how easily things can kind of be like glossed over and like summarized. Like, yeah, going like, oh, I which I obviously even did when we intro this, but going like, oh, I went to UNC Chapel Hill and graduated like this May. It's like there was so much that happened in that
Yeah.
4 year. Like
And every time I say
infinitely more
it, yeah.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. It just like, I don't know, it just hits me so hard because I'm like, dang, like those years meant so much to me. And it's like now it's just a sentence that I just
Yeah. It's
like, and
yeah.
obviously it's like shaped who we are. So obviously like the impact will be felt and seen for literally the rest of
Mhm.
our lives. But like, I don't know, it's just crazy like the way that we talk about ourselves. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. It's a really like really crazy thing to look back. But I think it's important. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, I guess, and hearing about a lot about the concept of like savoring.
Mhm.
Um, and so so much of that, while I have heard you can like savor things that are going to come in the future. I feel like so much of it is also easy to look back on and, take a moment and be like, wow, like I really lived through that. Like we both studied abroad. And so getting to
Yeah.
do that, like looking back on that and being like, wow, like we actually did that and like
Mhm.
lived abroad for like months is really cool. And it makes you feel like obviously as fortunate as we are. But
Mhm.
okay, I can move on to the next thing. And this one's less to do with anything professional or school-wise or career-wise. But it's definitely something I heard at some point and have really thought a lot about. And it's the hard thing to do is often the right thing to do. Um, and I felt like in my life, like so many things that you know you put off or you kind of like shy away from or you kick down the curb a lot of different like problems or situations end up being that way because you're like, oh, that's like hard, I don't want to do that. But then if you take a moment to step back and think like, okay, the reason that's hard and the reason I don't want to do that is probably because it is the right thing to do. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, but that's something I heard probably like last year and really been thinking a lot about.
Mhm. I think for me, something similar that I think about, I guess I don't think about it as like something hard. I think about it more in the context of change. I think because of literally the past
Mm,
year, there's been so much change, I feel like. But
mm,
I think like if change was easy, then there would be no growth that would come with it. And so I think I like to think of it as
mm,
like if it feels hard, it's because growth is happening because growth cannot exist without discomfort or like a bit of uncertainty
yeah,
and like just yeah, just like having it be difficult for a little bit before it can get any better. Um, but I think without those feelings of hardship, then it's like, what are you really like? How are you improving if you're not kind of like feeling that
yeah,
discomfort that comes with growth? So I guess that's how I think of it, which I think is similar to what you just voiced, but I think I've just been really sitting with that because I think I also look back on my 22 years of life, and I also think about like the times where I think everything felt the hardest. It's like when I'm literally like I'm right there. Like it's like I am literally like a month away from like starting like a crazy chapter of like growth and like I don't know, like like self-development in whatever way, like all of those moments like have been preceded by like moments where there have been like really low lows, I guess. Like I
Yeah.
feel like that's something I want to improve at because I don't think it has to be as hard as I've made it seem, but I definitely think that like discomfort is something that is always going to come with growth. But I think embracing it and not shying away from like acknowledging that it's really hard and it's really difficult, but then also acknowledging that there's a purpose to it, I think is really important. And like being able to
Yeah.
tie that to change into that those negative feelings, I think is really important because I think it's what gets you through them. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I obviously totally agree. This actually went into the next thing that I also wrote down, and this is something I told you very recently when we talked about. But after like having to move when going abroad and then moving, to Atlanta when I was there over the summer, um, I came up with my own little rule that has to do with this. And I call it my 2-day rule. And it's the idea that when you go through a big change, like moving to a new place, it helps to just accept that the first 2 days are going to suck. And it's going to get worse. Life gets worse before it gets better. And so I think that that is so much to your point of, you know, being in that uncomfortable space and realizing that that is where the growth happens. Um, it really is just like the idea that when you go through stuff like this, it's only like the only way to go from there is to grow out of it and to, adapt and learn more than you did before. Because the easy thing is to stay comfortable and to stay in the same situation. I think we can both agree it's much easier to like stay the same than it is to, consider jumping to a new thing, like a new opportunity or new project or job or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think yeah, I basically experienced that definitely when I was moving around a lot, especially last year. Um and it's really hard at first, but then, you start to um get out of it, and I feel like that's one of the most important kind of stages is the initial move and getting used to like that kind of change.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think a big part of it too is like feeling out of control. Like I feel like that's honestly where everything just like starts spiraling because it's like you don't know what's coming next. You're about to be in a new environment. Like you have literally no control over
Hmm.
anything. Or like it feels like you don't have any control over anything. And I think that's what can contribute to like those feelings of like anxiety and everything. And I think I've definitely felt that way though every single time. And I think that's what's comforting though, like in moments like this past week was pretty rough, even just moving here. Like I was like
Yeah.
I was like, I really don't know if I can do this. Like, I was like, I really don't like it. I don't know. Like, but it was really like, I don't like
Yeah.
the change, I think. And so
Yeah.
I really liked your 2-day rule because I think it quantified it a little more and like it let me have like this window of like, let me let myself be upset for like this amount of time. Because I think
Mhm.
already like I'm pretty big, and this is just like generally like how I feel like I like to live my life is like I'm a very emotional person, and I think I like to let my emotions be like felt. Like I really don't like pushing away emotions because I think that's just like I don't know. Nothing good has ever come out of like pushing away an emotion because it's just gonna like come out in a different
Mm.
way. Um, and so I think it's really important to like let yourself feel those things, but I think sometimes I let myself feel them for a little too long. And so I like the 2-day thing that you came up with because I feel like it let me be like, okay, let me be fully upset and I'll give myself these two
Mhm.
days. And then in my head too, I think I started just telling myself like, okay, like come on, girlie, like you're being so annoying, like just stop. And so I
Yeah.
think like I don't know, something about just being able to tell myself that and be like, this is annoying now. Like it's just so annoying to be upset about it for this long. So I was like, just stop and
Yeah.
like, move on. Like that's also just helped with that a lot. And then something that I'm trying to implement, um, which I feel like I have not been in the move from like, I don't know. I guess like when I moved for college, like in North Carolina, like it was really rough at first too. And I think I wasn't good about giving myself a window of time. Like I think I was just really like anxious and sad for like a long time with my first
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, like I saw a very similar thing happen like my last year of undergrad. Like I think I started like tweaking about change, like literally before I even let myself enjoy the moment towards the end of
Mhm.
like the last semester. Um, And so something I'm trying to implement into my life now, which I guess there won't be any major crazy changes until I'm done with my PhD, but I mean, who knows? You never know. But it's
Hmm.
actually advice that someone gave me at the lake this weekend because I we were just sitting around and I asked what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten. And so we went in a circle and said it. And one
Hmm.
of the girls, she was saying, she's a master's student, and she said anxiety and gratitude cannot coexist. Um, and so I really like that because
Mm.
when you're anxious, like that's so true. Like you can't possibly feel gratitude when all you're worried about is like what's happening in the future and like what you're going to be doing and like feeling the loss of control. And so she's been saying that like what she does when she starts feeling anxious, and I think this applies a lot to like those moments of change and uncertainty, is just ground yourself in gratitude and like what have you done and what are you certain of? Like you know for a fact that you have worked hard to get here, like you know for a fact
Hmm.
that you have friends even though there might not be like here in the state, it's like you know for a fact that like
Yeah.
I have like friends like in North Carolina, in Arkansas, like wherever. And so I think like grounding yourself in that gratitude makes it to where the anxiety can't be present because that's so true. Like you literally can't have both. Like you're either feeling anxious or you're feeling grateful. And like if you feel like you're feeling grateful while you're anxious, you're really not. Like that's not what gratitude is. And so I don't know. That's something that I was like when she said it, I was like that just like clicked for me. And so I think that's something that I've been trying to keep in mind a lot because I feel like there's still a little window sometimes where I'm like I'm sitting here and I'm laying in bed and I'm like holy shit, I'm in fucking Michigan. I'm like, what am I doing
Yeah.
here? Or like, I'm like, I don't know anyone
Yeah.
like in the 50-mile radius that I'm like logged in with that I like really trust to like a different degree that I know I'm like, I can call up and be like, oh, let's go like do XYZ. And like, I don't
Yeah.
know. And so sometimes when I get in those moments of like freaking out, I'm like, okay, but I'm so glad that I do have those people though. And like I have found those people elsewhere. Like they might not be here with me,
Mhm.
but like I have them in my life still. And like I don't know. I really, really appreciate that advice. And I think it comes to what we were just talking about of like how to surpass those feelings. And I think that's a way to keep us going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, but that is a really interesting um thing. And it has me thinking now. I'm like, okay, there are definitely moments where I like start getting anxious and everything. So I'm thinking like retrospectively, I'm like, yeah, if you can really, ground yourself in the gratitude of like where you are, I feel like at any point where I am, I'm always like, oh, there was a point in time where I would have wished I was here, where I
Exactly.
I could have like this was like the end goal. And
Mhm.
then it definitely does make it harder to like stress as much
Mhm.
about that. Um
Because then it's like
uh,
now you're just being a bad person. Like you're gonna
yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
it's like
how to
you're gonna
guilt
complain
trip your
about where you're
brain.
at.
Yeah, literally. That's really
Yeah.
interesting advice. Was there any other like crazy stuff you heard from people there that you
I think
remember?
that was really good. That was the main one that like really stuck with me because I was like, I haven't heard this. And
Yeah.
I just loved it. I think the other one that I've heard and I've also given to people is like the whole thing of like just ask. But it was good to hear though from like a grad student, just that like that carries on with you. And I think that probably will carry on with you for
Mm,
life. But just being like literally just ask like if you can have this paid for, or, like if you can like go on this trip or if you can go to this
yeah.
conference, like or even if you just want to like talk to someone, like she was like, it's literally like just between you and that, it's just a question. And then like someone else said like when you're like applying to things, it's like literally why not? Like you literally should apply to everything that comes your way because the only thing you have to lose is your time. Like, and if you're willing to
Yeah.
put time into it, then there should be no reason why you're not applying to all these things. And so I was like, dang. I was like, okay, clock it. But I was like, you're right. Like I'll be on that this next year. But I think those interesting pieces of advice though. And yeah.
Yeah. I think that even ties back to kind of what we said earlier about the barriers being lower than you think.
Mhm.
So many things are just like one question or
Literally.
one step away. Um, and I definitely feel that, especially something I've tried to embrace in the past couple months is really like the act of like talking to people and sitting down and like hearing their thoughts, especially if it's like an older
Mhm.
like mentor figure or someone, that you have a lot of respect for in what they do or whatever expertise they have. I think it does like feel so interesting to just be able to sit back and listen. Um, and so many of those conversations only happen if you take the initiative to ask. My dad always says, if you don't ask, you don't get. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Yeah.
like that exact principle of doing that. But yeah, I think just learning from other people, I think that's something that um I've tried to focus on a lot more as I've gotten older, is knowing that obviously we don't have all the answers. Um, and I've recently started to try and like search out more wisdom kind of from like other people, like old professors or older relatives, maybe like colleagues, stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of been a bit of a natural progression for me because I'm a younger sibling. And so I've
Yeah,
always
we
had an older
know.
brother. Oh, okay.
And
So I
I'm
don't
like,
know what
I'm
the
an older
implication is there.
whatever.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, growing up, I always had an older brother. So
Yeah.
I always had someone I could ask for and kind of get advice and some answers to. So shout out Zen. But
Yeah. Shout out
I
all older siblings.
yeah, and shout out you, of course. I think now it's like interesting to um see both like how that continues to evolve and how that pushes us forward in our journey to like learn more about ourselves and the world and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that was part of the reason I wanted to start this podcast as well.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting too, because I feel like I had a kind of opposite problem. I guess I'm not saying this is like older sibling specific, but I think I can attribute it to being an older sibling where like I really
Hmm.
struggle asking for help, like so bad, because usually I'm used to
Hmm.
being the one that like I'm figuring it out and then I'm like giving advice to like my family or my brothers of like what to do on certain situations. And I love doing that. Like I love mentorship in any capacity, whatever that looks like. But I think like it's made it really hard for me to be the person to ask. And so I feel like I've really tried to take that advice to heart. And I think that's something that I learned a lot in undergrad of like truly like you do have to sometimes ask for help and like ask like how people got into certain situations. Like you can't figure everything out on your own or just like
Hmm.
online. Like I remember like for the college application process, like I feel like I learned how to do all that just with Google. And so
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, we've come a long way now where I feel comfortable like asking people for help in that way. So I don't know. I love that piece of advice because I think it's so true, but it's easier said than done. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think like I do have a question if we're ready for closeout, but did you have anything else on your list though?
No, no, that was it. We low-key ran out of the list a little while ago.
Oh my God. It's okay. It's
But
a good
yeah.
conversation. Yeah, I think the last like thing that came to mind, which is something that I asked for my job this past summer, which I worked at a for an education nonprofit. And I did like I was a facilitator, so I would run different like it's basically like a teacher almost type job,
Mhm.
sessions with like youth and professionals and all this different thing in education space. But a question that I really liked from that I think really applies to this and I think would be a good way to close out would be if your younger self could see you now, what would they think?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, my younger self could see me now. I think I think one thing that I'd definitely be really happy about is the idea that I never knew if I was like kind of like cut out for it. I feel like I was decently like successful in like early education, like high school and stuff. But I didn't know if jumping to university and like jobs and stuff after that, if I really like had what it takes, or if I was just like kind of good at what I was doing in that moment. And so I think I would be relieved to know that like it worked out, at least to some degree in the
Mhm.
end. And I think my younger self would definitely be a bit surprised at the steps I've taken. I feel like to learn not only about like the outside world and like topics I'm interested in, but how we think and our own feelings and kind of like pushing more into that introspective realm. I don't think I was ever like honest with myself when I was younger about being like introspective. And this is something I want to talk about on a different episode as well. It's definitely like uh how to me the idea of it being kind of cringy to like talk about certain things and do certain things and think about certain things kind of like held me back. But yeah, I think that's definitely like some of the ways that I would be surprised. I think off rip, I might be my younger self might be disappointed that I'm not in med school, but we'll see. You know,
Me
there's
too, it's
still a
okay.
journey ahead. We'll see what the vibe is there. But I'm curious for you.
Yeah.
What did you say if you answered it last summer, and what would you say now?
Last summer, I was thinking also like just being in like middle school or like I
Yeah.
too. I guess I don't know. I think um the first thing I would notice is probably my hair. And
Oh, me
I would
too. I
be
forgot.
like, I would just be like, oh my God, like your hair is so curly and it's so like well kept
Mm.
and all this stuff. And I don't know, I think though that speaks to like a larger bigger picture where I feel like when I look back on my life and like pictures of myself and things, like I feel like I can always tell kind of where my confidence and self-esteem was based on what my hair looked like at the time. And so I feel
Mm.
like I don't know, I would just be very proud of myself that it's like that I feel like I'm way more confident than I was even like 4 years ago, I think. Um, and I think that, yeah, I think my hair is like, I don't know, like my whole life has just been a reflection of, I think that. And so being able to take care of my hair and like actually like appreciate my curls, I think would speak a lot to like taking care of myself and how I feel about myself. Um,
Uh-huh.
so I think that would probably be off what I would think. And I would be like, okay, yeah, so why aren't you a doctor? And then, um, but
You
I
are
think
on track to be a doctor, though,
hey,
to
yeah,
be
different kind of
fair.
doctor, um but no, I think though overall I think I'd be really shocked at like um that I dropped that, but I think like I feel like if I got to actually speak to where I'm at now, I think it would make so much sense. Like the whole common thread thing I think would be so real because I think
Mhm.
when I was actually in middle school, I really wanted to be a teacher. Like I wanted to be a teacher so bad. That was my dream job. And then when
Yeah.
I got to high school, I just got like the pre-med propaganda and it worked. And so and so then I switched up. But I think part of me has always like loved education and been really curious about that. So my dream
Yeah.
job is the professor, obviously. So just
Yeah.
throwing it out. But yeah, I feel like those are the main things. I would be like excited. I think that also helps with like the grounding, like the gratitude thing that we were talking about. Because I feel
Mhm.
like I was really, really pressed about living in Michigan at first, but I think like if my younger self could see me, I would just think that it would be so cool that I'm doing a PhD. Like no matter where, I think I
Yeah.
younger self would just be like, oh, that's so crazy that you're actually even like we're actually even doing a PhD. Like that's insane. And straight out
Yeah.
of undergrad too. So I think yeah, like it's a good
Okay. And not
I
just
think
some bum
all that to
PhD, by the
say,
way.
no.
Top program in the country. Come on.
Oh my God. But
Come
all
on
that to
now.
say though, that I think I like to ask myself this question now. I think also in moments where I'm starting to feel anxious, because I just think back to that and it's like that younger self, whatever, your inner child, whatever, like it doesn't just disappear. Like obviously that version of ourselves is still in us somewhere.
Hmm.
When I gave this lesson in the summer, I made it really dramatic, but I gave the quote out that was like in middle school we all learned that like energy can't be created or destroyed, it can only be
Hmm.
transformed. And so I think the same thing applies to obviously the energy and spirit that our younger selves had, like that's still within us somewhere. And I think it's important to ground ourselves in that and to remind ourselves that like that version of ourselves is so proud of us and that version of ourselves is still us. And so yeah, I think that it's a good
Wow.
factor.
That was a great answer. I think better than mine.
Oh, I loved yours. I think the more the story is we're both proud of ourselves,
Yeah.
so I think it's really good.
Yeah. I think definitely this is something really cool to think about, especially as you graduate university, and kind of look back on that whole journey, to see how it all kind of culminated. It is definitely something to be proud of. And I'm sure our younger selves would be. Um, but yeah, with that, I don't have any more things jotted down. And I think we're at a good stopping point for this first episode. But this was super fun. And I'm really, really glad we did this.
Me
I'm excited to talk about more things later on.
too.
Um, but yeah, that was great. Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone, for
thank
listening, if
you.
you're listening to this.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.